Think like a monster. Those were his exact words, and no, they didn't come from some hyped-up fan screaming in the bleachers. This wasn't a clickbait headline from a desperate reporter, either. This came straight from the sporting director of Germany's biggest powerhouse. The man pulling the strings at Bayern Munich, Christoph Freund, looked right into the lens and dropped a total bombshell. He called Luis Díaz an absolute winner who possesses the mentality of a football monster, claiming he's never seen anything like it. All of Germany stood still because this isn't just any club making a statement. This is the mighty Bayern Munich. We are talking about the home of legendary icons like Ribéry, Robben, and Lewandowski. For a club that lives and breathes superstardom, to say they've never witnessed a talent like this, that's not a compliment. It's a historic declaration. And as you watch this, a massive showdown is looming that's about to change the entire landscape of the sport. It's Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid in the Champions League quarterfinals. The kid from La Liga against the 15-time European kings, the squad rewriting the Bundesliga history books versus the eternal masters of the continent. Smash that like button if you think Lucho makes history at the Bernabeu, because what's coming next in this video is mind-blowing. There is a journalist back in Colombia who said something months ago that sounds absolutely ridiculous today. He claimed that if he were the one calling the shots at Bayern, he wouldn't drop that kind of cash on a 28-year-old. Diego Ribéry sat there with total confidence and proclaimed that he would spend the money to bring Luis Díaz to Munich. He said it loud and clear for the world to hear, but today, as Germany worships the Colombian and all of Europe remains in awe, those words serve as a stinging reminder that some people completely missed what Bayern saw from day one. See, Bayern didn't just go out and sign another winger. They secured a total phenomenon, and the statistics backing it up are honestly breathtaking. 37 goal involvements in 36 matches before the season even hit its peak. That is 1.02 game deciding moments every single time he plays. In the Bundesliga alone, he has racked up 14 goals and 14 assists in just 24 appearances. Those aren't typical winger numbers. That is the elite production of a world-class striker. For the skeptics claiming it's just luck, the advanced data completely destroys that argument. His expected goals sat at 12.35, yet he's already buried 14. And he doesn't just finish chances, he conjures goals out of thin air. And then is the record that now belongs to history forever. After 12 rounds, Bayern had 11 wins, 1 draw, and a goal difference of plus 35. That plus 35 mark is the highest ever recorded in Bundesliga history for any team at the 12-game mark. Not even the legendary Bayern under Guardiola that crushed everything in its path, nor Xabi Alonso's invincible Leverkusen side had ever reached those heights in the history of German football. Luis Díaz is the heartbeat of this historic run, but the numbers are only the tip of the iceberg. To understand why Freund used the word monster, you have to see Lucho when the pressure is suffocating and everyone else disappears. Take matchday 10 for example, Bayern versus Union Berlin. The team was struggling and the midfield was lost, but then came minute 38. A heavy pass, a defender draped all over him, and an angle that looked impossible to finish. Any other player would have lost the ball. Instead, Luis Díaz trapped the ball like it was made of silk with a touch that seemed to defy the laws of physics. He froze his marker with one subtle move and fired from an angle that tactical analysts still can't explain. That Berlin stadium, packed with rival fans, went from a deafening roar to total silence, then erupted in a standing ovation. Even the Union Berlin supporters were cheering for the man who had just dismantled their team. That goal is being studied by every scout in Europe and is already a frontrunner for the Puskas Award. But while Berlin was stunned, what went down in Paris was on a completely different level of greatness. Champions League night, Bayern against Paris Saint-Germain, the reigning kings of the continent. A sold-out Parc des Princes, the most intimidating stage in Europe, was ready for a war. Luis Díaz stepped on that pitch and sent 2 massive messages to the world within 30 minutes. Goal 1, Goal 2. Bayern was leading 2-0 in Paris with the Colombian as the absolute protagonist, with goals 13 and 14 in the Champions League. Lucho officially passed Jackson Martinez to become the greatest Colombian goal scorer in the history of the tournament. A record that once seemed untouchable now belongs to him, etched in the history books forever. That second goal, pure tactical genius. He completely outplayed Marquinhos, arguably the world's elite lockdown defender. He picked the Brazilian's pocket and buried it in the net before anyone could even blink. Silence fell over the Parc Diaz princes. Then Lucho's dark side emerged just before the half. Straight red card. He walked off with the lead, the record, and that raw, internal fury that defines his entire game. See, Luis Díaz doesn't play it safe or keep his cool. He plays with fire. Sometimes it burns him. But that relentless, no-off-switch intensity is exactly what makes him a god. Drop a comment on his best performance this season, because this next one is absolutely savage. Hoffenheim versus Bayern was supposed to be an easy day for Company's squad, but the defense decided to shadow Lucho everywhere. 21 individual pressures were thrown at Luis Díaz throughout that single match. 21 times Hoffenheim defenders swarmed him, trying to erase him from the pitch. The result, a hat trick. 3 goals, the highest efficiency rating of any player on that grass that day. He drew 2 penalties for Harry Kane, while securing his own trio, exiting to a standing ovation from 75,000 fans. That's the monster Freud warned us about. But everything we've covered so far, that's just the opening act, because what went down on March 18th was the loudest statement Luis Díaz has ever made in his career. Champions League round of 16, Bayern Munich versus Atalanta at the Allianz Arena. Bayern already crushed them 6-1 in Italy. The second leg was a formality, a game where anyone else would just coast. Save your legs for the next round, right? Not Lucho, he went for the throat anyway. And not with some cheap goal, he took it on the wing and just ignited. He left 3 Italian defenders frozen, staring at each other with no answer for his pace. He went one-on-one with keeper and finished it with a chip. So elegant it shouldn't be possible at that speed. It wasn't a necessary goal, but he physically cannot turn off that engine. He even bagged an assist before the whistle. Bayern took it 4-1. Winning 10-2 on aggregate. They're on to the quarterfinals. Then came the draw, Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. When asked about the matchup, the man from La Guajira dropped 2 words that sent shockwaves through the sport. 2 words that carry more weight than any locker room speech ever could. 2 words that gave half of Europe chills. Do you think Diaz becomes the MVP at the Bernabeu? Get in the comments right now, because this debate is reaching legendary status. April 7th, the Santiago Bernabeu. Madrid has every reason to be terrified. Way more than they realize. Let's keep it real though. This isn't hype, it's analysis. Real Madrid is packing heat that has all of Europe shaking. Kylian Mbappé, 13 goals in the Champions League this season alone. The most expensive player in history, he arrived at the Bernabeu with a kill order, and he's executing it perfectly alongside Vinicius Jr. Vinny is the other nightmare on the wing who can end a game in one touch. Madrid's attack is literally unsilenceable. 2 absolute monsters in Madrid, 2 titans out to prove that 15 European titles aren't a fluke, but they're refacing something they've never seen in this form. Harry Kane, the Bundesliga's undisputed top goal scorer this year, the man who drops deep, links the entire attack, and finishes with blood-cold precision. Then there's Michael Olise, the assist king of the top 5 European leagues. He'll cut you inside or beat you to the line. He is the stuff of defensive nightmares. And then Luis Díaz. He is the energy, the pressure, and the killer instinct that turns a great squad into a soul-crushing machine. The Robben and Ribéry comparisons, they're unavoidable now. That legendary duo combined for 268 goals. Their boots seemed impossible to fill. Then came Diaz and Olise. They became the first winger duo in Bundesliga history to both hit 20 goal involvements by match day 21. And the scary part, the season is far from over. There isn't a right back on the planet who can survive 90 minutes of Luis Díaz in this current form. That man simply does not exist. Lucho isn't just about pure speed. He's a lethal mix of elite technique, relentless pressure, and a motor that Vincent Kompany says never stops. The Belgian manager didn't hesitate. To him, Diaz is the game changer, the spark, and the pure courage of the squad. He's the final piece of the puzzle. The elite talent who transforms a solid team into an absolute wrecking ball. Mbappé versus Diaz, Vinicius versus Olise, the heavyweight clash of the year. One question is on everyone's lips. Can Real Madrid actually find an answer for a force that literally no one has stopped all season? This Bayern side is having a historic, record-breaking start to the year, and Luis Díaz is the beating heart of it all. This version of Lucho isn't he the player we saw 3 years ago. He has evolved into an entirely different beast. Company forged him into the most complete attacker in Europe. He hunts space, dominates the press, scores, and creates for everyone around him. And the most terrifying part of it all, he's still hungry for more. That primal hunger Freud talked about. The kind you can teach, only be born with. At 29 years old, he's at his absolute peak, the age where true icons cement their legacy from the remote dusty streets of Barrancas, Colombia. He grew up with a ball at his feet in a world where just turning pro was a miracle. Porto, Liverpool, and now Munich. He's systematically rewriting the record books of European football. You don't build a career like that on talent alone. You build it with a stone-cold mentality. And that mindset has a name, Luis Díaz. The best is yet to come, with the 2026 World Cup right around the corner. Diaz will be leading the charge for Colombia on the world's biggest stage, with millions of fans riding every single play. Portugal is on the horizon, then Uzbekistan, and whoever else stands in his way, right at the peak of his powers, when his country needs him most. Luis Díaz is in absolute God mode. His coach sees it every day, and all of Europe witnesses it every match. He didn't join Bayern to just fit into the lineup. He came to take over the throne. The Bernabeu on April 7th will be the stage where the monster from La Guajira defines his legacy. The beast has arrived. Is Luis Díaz as the best player on the planet in 2026? Drop your take in the comments. If this video fired you up, subscribe and hit that bell. Because this Bayern versus Real Madrid showdown is going to be absolutely legendary.